Stop scrolling, because China just told the U.S., keep your beef. That's 150,000 tons of American meat rejected in a single night. No warning, no gentle phase-out, just a hard stop. But this isn't only about beef. It's about power, influence, and $500 million in U.S. business suddenly gone. And while Washington scrambles for answers, guess who's quietly moving in? Russia. And they didn't even have to ask for permission. Let's be clear about what just happened here. This wasn't some bureaucratic mix-up or a food safety concern. This was Beijing sending a message. And that message is simple. We don't need you anymore. Think about that for a second. The country that we've been told for decades would collapse without American trade just slammed the door on $500 million of our exports. Overnight. Now you might be thinking, Tucker, it's just beef. We'll find other markets. But that's exactly the kind of thinking that got us into this mess in the first place. This isn't about cattle ranchers in Nebraska losing a contract. This is about the systematic dismantling of American economic leverage. And it's happening right under our noses while our leaders are busy with their latest virtue signaling campaign. Here's what your government won't tell you. China has been methodically reducing its dependence on American imports for years. They've been building alternative supply chains, courting new partners, and preparing for exactly this moment. While we were distracted by endless foreign wars and domestic political theater, Beijing was playing chess. And we weren't even at the table. The beef rejection is just the latest move in a much larger game. Last month, it was soybeans. Before that, corn. Each time, American farmers take the hit while Washington promises that somehow, some way, they'll negotiate a better deal. How's that working out? And here's the part that should really concern you. Russia is already moving to fill the gap. Moscow didn't need to lobby Congress or hire expensive consultants or promise campaign contributions. They just picked up the phone. Within hours of China's announcement, Russian agricultural officials were in talks with Beijing about expanding beef exports. This is how real countries operate. They see an opportunity, they move fast, they secure the deal. Meanwhile, our State Department is probably still drafting a strongly worded letter expressing concern about trade practices. Do you see what's happening here? We're not just losing market share. We're watching our competitors strengthen their relationships with the world's largest consumer market while we're left holding our hat. Russia and China, two countries we're supposedly containing through sanctions and diplomatic pressure, are now deepening their economic ties at our expense. So what's been the American response to this economic slap in the face? Silence, confusion, the usual bureaucratic shuffle. Our trade representatives are monitoring the situation. Our agricultural secretary is exploring options. Our president is probably being briefed by the same experts who assured us that China would never dare challenge American economic dominance. This is what decline looks like. Not dramatic collapse, but slow, steady erosion of influence. Death by 1,000 cuts. Each individual incident seems manageable, explainable, temporary. But add them up, and you're looking at the systematic replacement of American economic power by countries that understand how the world actually works. The truth is, our leaders have been so focused on lecturing other countries about democracy and human rights that they forgot the most basic rule of international relations. Economic strength equals political influence. You can't project power from a position of economic weakness. And right now we're getting weaker while our competitors get stronger. This beef rejection isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern that anyone paying attention should have seen coming. China has been testing American resolve for years, pushing boundaries, seeing how far they can go before we push back. And what have they learned? That we won't push back. Not really. We'll issue statements. We'll hold hearings. We'll promise investigations. But when it comes to actual consequences, actual retaliation, actual defense of American economic interests, nothing. We've become a paper tiger, and the whole world knows it. Look at the timeline. First, China started buying less American energy, claiming they were diversifying their suppliers. Then they reduced agricultural imports, citing quality concerns. Now they're outright rejecting major shipments, without explanation. Each step was a test. Each time we failed. And while we were failing these tests, what were we doing? Spending trillions on foreign wars that accomplished nothing. Sending billions in aid to countries that vote against us in the UN. We've been playing the role of global policeman while our competitors have been playing the role of global businessman. The real cost of this beef rejection isn't the $500 million in lost sales, though that's certainly significant. The real cost is the message it sends to every other country watching this unfold. The message that America can be pushed around, that our threats are empty, that our economic partnerships are optional. How long before other countries start following China's lead? How long before we see similar rejections from India, from Brazil, from the European Union? Once the dam breaks, once the perception of American economic invincibility is shattered, the flood becomes unstoppable. And make no mistake, this is about perception as much as reality. International trade isn't just about supply and demand. It's about relationships, trust, and power dynamics. When China publicly humiliates American exporters, they're not just making an economic decision. They're making a political statement. They're telling the world that America is no longer indispensable. Meanwhile, Russia is laughing all the way to the bank. They get to expand their agricultural exports to the world's largest market without having to compete with American producers. They get to strengthen their relationship with China without any interference from Washington. And they get to watch America's economic influence decline without firing a single shot. This is strategic thinking. This is how you win without fighting. You let your opponent defeat himself through incompetence and neglect. You position yourself to benefit from his mistakes. You build relationships while he burns bridges. Putin understands something our leaders apparently don't. Economic warfare is still warfare. And right now, we're losing. Not because we lack resources or capabilities, but because we lack strategy and will. We're bringing a strongly worded letter to a knife fight. The irony is almost too perfect. We've spent years trying to isolate Russia through sanctions and diplomatic pressure. And now, thanks to our own incompetence, we've handed them one of the biggest economic opportunities they've had in decades. We've literally sanctioned ourselves out of the Chinese market while giving our competitors a free pass. So what does all this mean for ordinary Americans? It means higher food prices as domestic supply increases with nowhere to export. It means job losses in agricultural communities that depend on export markets. It means a weaker dollar as demand for American goods declines globally. But more than that, it means we're living through a fundamental shift in global power. The era of American economic dominance is ending, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Not because we were defeated in battle, but because we were outmaneuvered in boardrooms and trade negotiations. Our competitors understood something we forgot. In the modern world, economic power is political power. Control the supply chains, control the markets, control the relationships, and you control the future. While we were focused on military supremacy, they were focused on economic supremacy. Guess which one matters more in the 21st century? This beef rejection should be a wake-up call. It should force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our place in the world and the effectiveness of our current leadership. But will it? Or will we just add it to the growing pile of warning signs that we've chosen to ignore? The choice is ours. We can continue down this path of managed decline, watching our economic influence erode while our leaders offer empty promises and meaningless gestures. Or we can wake up, face reality, and start fighting for American economic interests with the same intensity that our competitors fight for theirs. But that would require admitting that our current approach isn't working. It would require acknowledging that our leaders have been playing checkers while our competitors have been playing chess. And most importantly, it would require doing something about it. The question is, are we still capable of that kind of honesty? Are we still capable of that kind of action? Or have we become so comfortable with decline that we've forgotten what winning looks like? China just gave us their answer. The question is, what's ours going to be?